Europan 16 starts today from BITONTO, with a tour aimed at introducing and discovering the themes that the city of BITONTO has decided to propose for the competition. Obviously, because of COVID-related issues, we couldn't all be physically present, but we'll do our best to allow you to discover all of the interesting things that this territory has to offer through our video that will be useful for your own planning. Councillor Cosimo Bonazia, who is standing here next to me, will guide us on this tour, and I'm going to give the floor to him now, so that he can explain why we are starting from Piazza Caduti del Terrorismo. Welcome everyone, welcome to BITONTO. We are here in Piazza Caduti del Terrorismo, the first stop on our discovery tour of the cities of BITONTO, Palombaio and Mariotto. Our first stop is Piazza Caduti, precisely because it represents a crucial junction between the BITONTO, Palombaio, Mariotto priority axis, which takes us all the way to the Alta Murcia Park, the Lungolama that goes towards the slaughterhouse, and the road access that leads us right into our historic city center. We are now in Piazza Cattedrale, on the route of the ancient Via Appia Traiana, now the Via Francigena, that obviously connects to Piazza Caduti, which we saw earlier. This is our most important monument, a 12th century Apulian Romanesque cathedral, built in the years 1080 but completed in the years 1229-1230. Around the cathedral there is a medieval nucleus, and today Piazza Cattedrale, together with Piazza Cavour and two other squares at the edges of an ideal quadrilateral, is the most livable and lived-in part of the old city centre, because in addition to the presence of residents, there is a large number of businesses, especially food, restaurants, bars and shops, as well as tourist shops. This is due to an operation that began about 20 years ago with the restoration of the squares, especially this one, but then also Piazza Cavour, but which was enhanced in 2012 with the launch of an urban regeneration initiative, focusing primarily on services rather than on monuments, with a regulation that has somehow allowed the presence of commercial activities in the old town. Since then, we have therefore seen an economic and commercial development of this area, which has been invaded in a positive sense by many restaurant entrepreneurs. So today the old center, especially this part, is the crown jewel of the city's food and wine sector, which combines with its cultural heritage. In addition to the cathedral and the various squares, there are municipal cultural services, such as the municipal library, which is 100 meters from the square, and the Torrione Angioino, with its contemporary museum, which is 300 meters away. Here we have the cultural workshops 100 meters from the square, so as you can see, it is a focal point for culture and tourism. Here we are at the center of the three-square system, Piazza Moro, Piazza Marconi and obviously Piazza Cavour, with its monumental entrance from the Porta Baresana. This is a 17th century urban system, especially with the Corso Road that reaches the sea. Today, more than ever, it is a strategic space, as you can see from the traffic, because it connects all the routes. The one that goes towards the villa and therefore towards the sea, the one that goes towards the station Via Matteotti, and the one that goes out of the city, Via Traeta and the route towards the walls. This area is crucial as it has a great socio-cultural significance. The squares are very popular with all ages and social classes, particularly Piazza Cavour, which is the square where events take place. But Piazza Moro and Piazza Marconia are also squares used for markets and commercial activities. It's a highly strategic system that of course presents some critical aspects, such as traffic. This issue was addressed in the drafting of the Urban Sustainable Mobility Plan. Therefore, we are shifting to a new mobility model that needs to start from a renewed quality of life in the squares, and especially from the relationship between the historic square and the old square with the squares of the suburbs. This square is also the entrance to one of the most important events and projects that we have launched in the last 8 years, that is Cortili Aperti, a national event during which we open more than 60 buildings, among which gardens, museums and cultural sites to the public, and close half of the city to traffic, testing a sustainable mobility model in hopes of a more livable city and for cities in general worldwide. Here we are at the next stop on our discovery tour. We have just left the 3-square system in the center of Bitonto and headed towards the Lama Balige. At some point, we've entered this island of art to meet Angela Rapio, a talented local artist whose work is focused on our project areas. Let's meet her together. So the relationship with nature leads me to create and reflect on how nature is truly necessary for the constant rebirth of human beings. We have to follow the cycles of nature, death and rebirth, and for human beings it's the same thing, a constant rebirth. I grew up here in the municipality of Bitonto, and particularly in the lands of Palombaio and Mariotto, where I spent my entire childhood. I've spent my entire professional career within this beautiful reality. Today I believe that the main need, especially in the villages, is to feel considered, to feel alive. Today there is still a lot to be done in order to build an important piece of history into realities that live above all on agri-food, a strong agri-food richness. So it would be wonderful to imagine our reality, precisely that of Palombaio, in a completely different context, a context of tourist routes within the farms, our masseria that are present here in our area, a context made up of bike paths, sports fields, and all that can be strongly attractive for both young people and the elderly. Nowadays, it is important to understand that being here and having a large production business is all very well, but it is also important to understand the context in which we live and grow. The tourists who take the plane to visit my company and land in Palese, when they come to see me, the first thing they say is, "Oh my god, all you could see from the plane were olive trees." In other words, olive trees that seamlessly reach right down to the sea. It's one big stretch of olive trees. We have to protect and look after these olive trees because they are an integral part of our history. So we cannot think of designing a city of the future without taking our landscape into account, because the wealth of our cities is precisely the landscape of our countryside. Palambayo was founded as an agricultural town, and the square has always been the most important meeting place. In ancient times, the piazza or the square was the place where the landowners went every day to choose and hire their field workers. It is also where the wages for these workers were negotiated. Today, the concept of the square has somewhat changed, although, especially the elderly, they still carry on this legacy. Especially in Palombayo, which is a small town, the square still continues to be an important gathering place. Now we are on Via Cela, a bike route linking Bitonto to Palombayo and Mariotto, and extending for about 20 kilometers into the woods within the Murgia National Park. The bike path represents the first attempt to connect Bitonto with the two villages. It is an attempt to connect the different urban centers through natural and naturalistic landscapes. We are obviously in the early stages of this connection. We hope to see it repurposed and implemented with services to the benefit of the community and its users. This tour shows us how the entire route from Bitonto to the Alta Murgia Park allows us to explore naturalistic landscapes, rich in cultural and historical attractions. We encounter the various tri-stone masonry haystacks, the tri-stone walls, the lamia, and many other artifacts that are also of a rural and agricultural nature. It is, however, clear that this needs to be improved and implemented by creating rest areas for families as well, creating, if possible, individual routes for pedestrians and cyclists only, avoiding any interference with vehicles. It is clear that the squares of Palombayo and Mariotto must be destination points, not just meeting points as they are currently conceived, but rather destination points where we can encourage cultural and commercial sharing, promote tourism, as well as the typical products of our villages. Right, so our discovery tour of this route, which we started this morning from Bitonto through Palombayo and Mariotto, ends in this last stretch of Via Cela before returning to the city. We had a lot of inspiration and food for thought. We met the very interesting people from these local areas who told us how they are planning to untap their full potential. You can follow us on the official Europan website. Thank you.